Well, welcome once again to I Care About Books. We don't have Vince here this time, but I am joined by two of my very favorite people, Graham McGaw, the founder of booknotification.com, my cousin Angela Maxwell, who is a librarian in Ottawa, Canada. And tonight we are talking Graham's pick for books. I keep getting myself like so far ahead. This is actually episode 8. Earlier today, I referred to it as episode 9, but it's episode 8. It was Graham's choice. Graham, tell us about the book we are chatting about today.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Are you serious?
I think, yeah, I did not. It's a middle grade book. It's Rebecca Stead, When You Reach Me, is a Newbery Award winner. And because it's a middle grade book, we have to kind of judge it on two different factors, I think. One, how it resonates with us as adults, and two, how it resonates for middle graders and how they would pick it up and read it and if they would enjoy it and so on. And I think I don't want to say failed, but I didn't think it landed either side of that thing. And I know, like, I was reading reviews after I read it, hoping, there was something I missed type thing. And I read it and people are describing it as a work of art and things like that. And I'm like, no, I think it failed at that.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm surprised because it was your pick. But why did you pick it? Before I ask Ange what she thought of the book, why did you pick this book in the first place?
Well, I think the good thing about I Care About Books is we do a wide variety of books. There's no set genre. There's no set rules. It's all a different thing. This was like more, it was a middle grade book. It was an award-winning book. That is a real cool backstory with the author and how she wrote the book and all that, right? So I thought it'd be an interesting one to go with. And I hadn't read it much about it before. It was trying to be like, it was like kind of a sci-fi book for middle graders in theory, but it tried a little bit too much of everything, and some people loved that. I did not. I think it just kind of, it should have stuck with one general thing. And it had some tropes I did not enjoy. So
all right. Okay. Angela, over to you. We were talking just before we got started that this was a quick read. And well, obviously it's a youth book, but that was the part that I wanted to mention as well. I need you to give us this anecdote again about going to the library and requesting this book and being in the wrong section.
I couldn't find this book in the library, which was embarrassing for me. I was looking in the young adult section and it wasn't there, so I went to ask the librarian, and she was quite snarky with me. She didn't know I was a librarian. She was like, "You're looking in the wrong section." Quite disgusting. Anyway, so yes, middle grade book, but I did my undergrad research project on time travel and the comparison of time travel in fiction and to actual scientific books like Einstein, and so I wanted to like this, but I just kept waiting for something. And when you got the big reveal, it was kind of like, well, okay. I wanted it to tie together a little bit nicer. But you're right. It had a lot of layers, but they weren't well connected.
All right. So, well, I freaking love this book. I'm going to get that out of the way right now. I loved this book. I thought it was fascinating. I thought, this kid, Miranda, reminded me so much of myself when I was her age. I felt like, the idea of her wanting so much to be good to her mom, but still struggling with the fact that she's still only in 6th grade and doesn't understand why her mom does the certain things that she does or how she does it, but still trying to earn her sort of respect by helping her with the game show prep and so on, and wanting to like Richard, her mom's boyfriend. I thought all of that was so good and so well thought out as a 6th grade kid. But beyond that, I totally understood Miranda, how she always felt like she was a step behind everybody else. She didn't understand what Sal was saying. She didn't understand what Marcus was saying. She didn't understand why Julia was so cool and had all of this stuff available to her and she didn't. And I really understood that about Miranda. She wanting to be a part of the pack and becoming an employee with Jimmy's and only going along with that, even though she wasn't as quite capable as Anne-Marie and Colin were. And I just thought all of those things were so neat about Miranda. And I was like, I totally understand as a 6th grade girl how her character worked and what I liked about her. But what I will say about the book as a whole, it was, in my opinion, completely written the way a sixth grader would see the world. It takes, you know, to me, it looked like middle grade school where nothing made any sense. Everything was disjointed. I was growing up, my thoughts were changing. What I consumed on television was a little bit different. And my narrative, if I thought about the way I looked at grade 6, nothing was connected. The themes weren't connected. This didn't make sense to this. This didn't make sense to that. It was just the way I perceived the world when I was in grade 6. So that's how I looked at the book. And I felt like it was so true to the way a 12-year-old girl sees the world, at least in my perspective. What do you think, Graham?
Well, it's interesting to say the word disjointed, because that was one thing I stood out for me, but in a negative sense. The timeline of the book, for example, jumps from present to past, which is fine. So many books do that, and they do it great. This one, I thought, just made it extremely confusing. For example, like, there was like a lot of books when they do present to past, it's one chapter on the present, one chapter on the past, or they clearly state what it was. This one, I had no idea what the timeline was. Like, I'm sitting there as an adult and reading it, and I'm like, wait, is this the present? Is this the $20,000 pyramid part? No, wait, this is back in October before. I just felt that jump, and I'm sitting there going, if I'm a adult reading this and I'm struggling to figure out when this is, how is a middle grader gonna go with it, you know? And so that was where, for me, the middle grader part fell apart, because I feel like it should have flowed better. It should have been clear to the reader. And let's say maybe I was just lost. It took me a bit to realize, wait, it keeps jumping, but there's no set reason as to when it's jumping. There's no flow to it. There's no structure to the story, basically.
Maybe that speaks to me as a human. Like, my personality is always jumping around. I'm kind of one of those people, we've talked about the way that I read books. Sometimes I read them out of order and so on. But I'm the kind of person who lives her life sort of like that, where one day I'm focused on this and one day I'm focused on that. So I think maybe this appealed to me because I think like that in past and future and present, and suddenly everything comes clear. And the whole veil metaphor about how we sort of keep this veil over in front of our faces at all times to sort of blur out what's going on around us, and then having to reveal ourselves sometimes and go, it's not all about us. Sometimes there's more going on in the world, and looking out behind that veil. I thought that was a really great metaphor. Angela, over to you.
I thought that her relationship with Julia was so frustrating because it didn't make any sense. Like, what is it? It wasn't your traditional, this kid has more stuff than I have, and so I don't feel I can get along with her. There was some animosity there that didn't get explained. And then, but Julia wanted to be her friend. That's the part that didn't make sense. Because if it's the regular dichotomy between the cool kid and the nerd, then why did it end up being that the cool kid actually wanted to be her friend? I didn't understand why that was the way that it was. And
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I have to speak to that. I have to speak to that because I have that exact anecdote. There was a kid when I was in the 6th grade who was beautiful and smart and funny and witty and had lots of stuff, and I just hated her. There was no reason for it. There was
yeah, that part makes sense. But why does that smart kid, like, how does Julia feel towards Miranda? That's the part I didn't understand.
And then that's the part that I wanted to speak to, because I feel like this gal, and I'm sure I could say her name and everybody would know who I'm talking about because it was very unique when we were in middle school. But she never had any animosity towards me. In fact, you know how they have like twin days in school? Like, she actually asked me if I wanted to twin with her, and I made up an excuse and turned her down for like no reason, except that I felt, maybe it's because I felt unworthy of her friendship. Maybe I felt like she was on me in some way.
Yeah, that was one of the things that drove me crazy. And the other one was, why couldn't she just cut the bun? I don't know. That just, it went on and on. And like, figure it out, man.
No, I don't think they spent enough time in the sandwich shop. I think the book should have been dedicated more to the sandwich shop, because that was fascinating. Oh, can we get meatballs in the sandwich? No, we can't. Okay. Oh, let's go get pizza for lunch and sneak back and
I did get a kick out of the fact that they were making these turkey and ham and so on sandwiches, but they're only given cheese. sandwiches every day. They weren't even allowed any kind of meat whatsoever. A lot of the reviews I read, people figured out the twist as they were going along. They knew already that it was going to be Marcus that was in the center of this plot twist. What do you think? Was it obvious to you, Graham, that this was where we were headed in the story?
As I said the last podcast, when I read books, I read them. I don't really stop and think, So I'm not sitting there going, "Oh, who is this laughing man?" I'm along for the ride. I'm along for the adventure, whatever the author takes me and stuff. So no, I when I got to that part, no, it definitely took me off guard. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So that kind of twist I did like, because I wasn't thinking about it, so I didn't see it. But then again, I was still quite confused where the whole letters thing that wasn't explained, where she's receiving these letters and she's got to write this letter, and so I was still kind of try to piece together all that. But yeah, the actual twist itself, no, I didn't see it coming. That was one of the highlights of the book for me. I was like, yeah, cool. And then,
what about you, Angela? Did you pick it up right away?
I didn't pick up that it was Marcus, but I did see the connection with the naked man. So that became clear, because a lot of times they can't wear clothes when they travel. So they brought it up twice that they had to close school or something because there was a naked man running around. And so the second time they brought it up, I'm like, that has something to do with the guy who's traveling through time. But other than that, I didn't know that it was Marcus. But again, like, why did Marcus have to punch Sal in the face? Like, that didn't tie in well at all. Like, yes, they tried to explain it to say, his brother said he had to toughen up and just punch somebody, but it didn't make any sense why it was the time traveling man and her ex-best friend who had that altercation. That didn't make sense to me. I see how they're trying to bring in the characters.
It just seems so sixth grade to me that some kid would just haul off and deck some kid just to see what would happen. Just the same that, I watched my son get a magnifying glass just to see what would happen if he aimed the sun properly to the grass to see if it really would burn. Like I did not say an ant. But truly, like, I don't know. I felt so transported back into being in sixth grade. Like, I got these kids. I understood, like, Anne-Marie. I understood Colin. I understood Sal. I understood the way Marcus was thinking. I was like, holy shoot, I'm back in middle school. Go ahead.
Actually, I will bring up one thing that really bothered me, seeing how, first I want to say, that undergrad, did you learn about time travel naked thing? Was that an actual thing in your course, Angela?
So I did a lot of reading of time travel, and it's one of the things that recurs in fiction about time travel, is that you can't carry it with you. So like,
that's cool.
Audrey Neffenegger, The Time Traveler's Wife, is the absolute best book about time travel that I've read.
Did you see there's a sequel to that coming out?
No.
You don't follow book notification on Instagram, do you? We just had a new book alert 2 days ago informing the world that a sequel is coming out in October, I believe.
But back me up here, Carrie. I sent you the other day because there were 3 authors that I like. They were all on the same day, and I was like, "Look, this Carrie, isn't this great?" So I do watch it. So bad I missed that one.
Yeah, it was just announced.
Notification and get notified.
We're the ones that will notify you. Yes. But actually, you mentioned the punch there, so I actually do want to bring up one of my biggest pet peeves, and I hate this about any book: an unreliable narrator. And that's what Miranda was, because in the book she talks about the whole focus of the book is the punch to Sal, and then how Sal completely ditches her and stops hanging out with her, right? And then at the end of the book, Sal's like, well, actually, didn't you notice I stopped hanging out with you before then? And she's like, that's right, Sal stopped walking with me to school and all that. I went back to the beginning of the book where she categorically states that he walked with her every day after school up until that punch. So that really bothered me, because it was a whole arching storyline for the entire book, and then ends up unreliable narrator. So that was a big pet peeve for me.
But I loved that.
I know you love it, and I love that. I think it's awesome. You love it.
I can't stress this enough. I was like, Of course she didn't see the signs. Of course she's unreliable. She's a sixth grade girl. She's going through puberty. It's the 70s in New York. She's a latchkey kid. Everything she says, does, thinks, whatever makes zero sense because nothing about 12-year-old girls makes any sense. And as a girl mom, my daughters made absolutely no sense when they were 12. And I think this is why I loved this book so much, was because I found it so relatable. Like, I was like, how did Rebecca Steed get into the brain of a 12-year-old kid and manage to write a book that, in my opinion, so accurately depicted what life would have been like as a 12-year-old, you know? And a lot of the descriptions that I have to mention this, because the way Miranda views the world is exactly the way I can imagine she sees the world. Like, getting underneath the mailbox at the end to see what the laughing man would look at underneath the mailbox is exactly something I would have done when I was 12. Like, what adult would consider, oh, maybe I should get underneath here and see why he slept underneath the mailbox? Nobody thinks like that, but a 12-year-old probably would, because that's curious. Kind of like, why is there an abandoned building that I probably shouldn't go in because it's probably condemned? That's how we think as adults. But as a 12-year-old, you're so curious about the world around you, or the way that she describes Belle, or when she's using, you know, her mom's examples of how strawberries at Belle's place aren't actually strawberries, they're just shaped strawberry objects, and how now that's kind of imprinted on the way Miranda thinks, and she's incorporating that into various parts of her narrative. So there was so much to me that, yeah, that I guess that's disjointed. I guess that doesn't make any sense. I guess that's infuriating, but so are 12-year-olds. Go ahead, Angela.
But you can't kick someone out of the way of an oncoming truck. Because try it and it won't work.
But he practices kicks. That's why the sandwich shop was such a big scene, so they could see him out there practicing his kicks as you do.
Yeah.
It was very Terminator 2 in a lot of ways. Is what I felt like I was watching young John come back and like change the world so that we could like know what exactly was going to happen and make it right. But yeah, no, honestly, I really loved this book. It really resonated with me. It's definitely a book. Like, I'm here with my cousin Mitch, and he's in year 6, so this is right at his wheelhouse for books and to be read. I read a lot of the reviews that were negative for this book, and many of the things that people were I don't want to say complaining, that's the wrong word, but many of the people that were criticizing the book were along the same lines that the two of you were saying. But it resonated for me because I could see myself in Miranda. It felt like a snapshot of grade 6 for me. But the other side of what people were saying was how long it took to get to the meat of the story. And that's what I wanted to ask both of you about. Did you find the pacing of this story could have been done much sooner and much faster? Or do you think that it was appropriate to go over the year of grade 6? Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, I think that it's a short story, so they have to kind of draw it out so that it takes you a while to get to the point, which is that it was actually Marcus. And that's why they have this filler timeline, which is the game show, right? And that's what it felt like to me, was just filler, because yes, it's trying to get you to understand the relationship she has with her mom to a certain extent. But then when you actually go to the game show, it was very anticlimactic. Like, it wasn't that you could see the evidence of what they had worked on together playing out in the actual game show itself. And so that felt like just kind of filling in time to get people impatient about what will happen at the end.
What about you, Graham? Do you think that the pacing was good, on point? It took too long to get to the point? What do you think?
Yeah, but it's funny because I actually did enjoy the whole the whole preparing for the quiz thing and all that. I was kind of interested in that, just seeing them strategize all that. But yeah, I thought the pacing was quite spot. I thought one of the biggest issues with the pacing really was that Miranda, the protagonist, she was very passive. She was almost like a bystander and didn't do anything. You know, like she Sal leaves, notes appear, her mom's going on TV, and she's just. It felt like she was a bystander. She wasn't really doing anything, you know, like as things are happening around her, she's just kind of sitting back, you know. And so that I felt didn't push the plot on.
Am I supposed to like counter this again and be like,
yeah, but I mean, the $2 bills in the piggy bank, like nobody paid any attention to, you know, who might have done it. They just waited until the answer came to them, right? So like those kinds of things, like where a curious person would start to investigate and you'd start to see that plot line develop, who had done this, instead of just being like, oh, look under this tray in Belle's cash register. She tells you that these laughing man had come in and paid these $2 bills. Oh, it must have been him. Like, that's not a good reveal, right? Like, there could have been a better way for the character to have pulled that out.
And see, when I read that part, I was like, that tracks, because a 12-year-old accepted her reality that somebody probably went into the diner when Jimmy was using the washroom and he hadn't put his back in 5 minutes sign up on the door. They went in, they swiped it, they left. And she's just accepted that to be reality. So when it does pop up later on, she goes, oh, I didn't think about it after it happened because I'd already accepted my version of what probably happened, but here's actually the truth. And that's when it came back up again. At least that was my interpretation.
Yes. The only thing about that is just that she'd been accused, right? So when it's at you, then you're more invested in finding out who had done it to absolve yourself of guilt, right? So, I mean, things have happened before. When you're accused of something, you take that action where you're like, okay, I know I didn't do it. So who did do it?
Oh, I wish I was like that. I wish I was trying to absolve myself from accusations where I'm like, let them. I don't believe it. Let them.
I might lose my job where I get a cheese sandwich every day.
Well, I thought, I mean, obviously we know how I felt about it. I'll give my ratings out of Belle's in a moment, but we'll start off with Graham. It was your book. It was your pick. What will you rank When You Reach Me by Rebecca Stead out of 10 Bells?
Like I said, I just think it tried too hard. It tried too much. It tried to be too many stories at once while not accomplishing much. I also, not to get too serious, but I was kind of, you know, a middle grade book. I wasn't too happy with the way it flirted with like racism and classism, but didn't actually dive into it. They were just things on the surface level. And then also just the way the laughing man, where he's homeless and he's struggling with mental illness, but actually no, it's just a time traveler, and it's kind of makes. So I had those types of issues with it, and as I said, unreliable narrator, the pacing, etc. I'll give it a 4 out of 10.
Ooh, it's mean. It's mean. It's 4. Graham doesn't have a mean bone in his body, Rebecca Steed. He gave you a 4.
Just hope Rebecca Steed is not watching this podcast.
I hope she's not. If I was lying, yes.
Angela, over to you. Out of 10 Bells.
Well, I mean, it was an easy read, so I don't want to be too hard on it with the rating, but it doesn't have a category of audience. That's, I think, the problem, because it wouldn't make sense to middle graders, I don't think, and it fell flat as a book for adults, so I think I'll have to give it a 5.
It was nicer than Graham.
Well, I'm very relieved, because like I said, I finished the book and I was reading Reddit, I was reading Goodreads. People are calling it works of art, and that's fine. People, and I'm happy that's people enjoyed it, loved it. But I was like, what am I missing out on? And I was worried coming into this podcast that both of you were like, wow, that was change your lives. Thankfully, only one of you was like that. So it's nice to know Angela is grounded. So in reality.
Wow, it just gets meaner. So obviously my ranking out of 10 Bells is 10 because that's as high as we go, but if I could get higher, I would give it higher, because I thought this book was sensational. I thought it was so great. I think I'll be okay. You know what? I'll give you guys this. If it was not written first person, I would give you guys what your criticism is of the book. But as a 12-year-old writing this book, and her experiences and the way she sees the world and her interactions with the various characters and how she handles each situation and coming of age and so on and so forth, I felt it so authentic. I mean, like the idea of how a 12-year-old would interpret, like she doesn't even question that her favorite book, A Wrinkle in Time, is coming true in her very own life. And that to me is the way a 12-year-old would think. They don't question things like that because they don't realize they're supposed to. So that's so applicable to so much in the story. So anyways, I would give it a 10. I would recommend it to any kid. I think that they would have a lot of fun with this book. And I really wish the two of you loved it more.
I'm very glad you loved it. I think that is awesome. It's cool you're that passionate about it. It's really neat to see. So I'm very happy with that.
I don't usually get this passionate about a book. Maybe I feel even stronger about my passion because the two of you don't agree with me.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's an opposition rating.
Yeah.
All right, that all being said, it is Angela's turn to pick out our next book. Before we let Angela pick, Graham, I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to put you right here on the spot. Graham had a suggestion for you in case you couldn't come up with a title for this week. Graham, do you remember what it was?
I have it on my WhatsApp somewhere. If you give me a,
well, don't you worry, I picked one. So
next time.
Well,
he's not serious.
Oh,
yeah. You can list the book while I find it here. Oh wait, no, I haven't found it yet. Sorry. Yeah, you go ahead and list your book, and I'll find the one I picked out.
Okay, so I will preface this by saying that I'm going for a crowd pleaser because the last time you guys weren't enthralled with my book, even though it was a great work of art.
You're not. It's good to know you're not bitter, Angela. That's good to know.
Like, I'm gonna win you over, Graham. This is gonna do it. This is called The Biddlemore. Sorry, my background blur doesn't help you very much.
Yeah, I see.
This is written by Jan Arden, so Carrie's inevitably going to love it. But I'll read you the flap. On mean Harp Biddlemore's blighted farm, hidden away in the Black Hills, nothing has gone right for a very long time. Crops don't grow, the pigs and chickens stay skinny, and the 3 aged dairy cows, Burl, Krilla, and Dally, are so fed up with being on the receiving end of Harp's cruelty, they are plotting an escape. And the cows talk in this book. It is wonderful, and you will love it. And also Jan Arden, I did go to a book signing with her, and she was being interviewed by Rick Mercer, and the two of them together is just a fantastic combo. But she spent, I think, somewhere close to a decade writing this. And so I think it's just amazing because, of course, she's an amazing artist and an amazing songwriter, but she struggled to try and actually bring her story out. And she nailed it. It's absolutely so much fun to read. So there you go. I dare you not to love it.
Well, Angela and I actually went to see Jan Arden together last summer. So like I am a huge fanatic for Jan Arden. I love that she always comes up in my most listened to artists in my Spotify recaps. I'm a huge fan of Jan Arden, not only of her as an artist, but her songwriting. So if that in any way, shape, or form translates onto page, because we know that she's an exceptional lyricist, I can only imagine how great this book is.
She's also hysterical as a human being.
So my headphones have actually cut out. I can't hear a word you guys are saying. I'm just going to try turning them off then on.
Now he's frozen.
This is very anticlimactic because Graham is a trickster and a jokester. So I'm wondering if this is part of a line. So is it Brittlemore or say it again?
Bittlemores.
Bittlemores. Bittlemores. Okay, got it.
The family that owns the farm.
Amazing. So you said she spent this the only book she's written?
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, she wrote like some memoirs, but this is the only work of fiction that she's written.
And she's also recently engaged. So congratulations to Jan Arden, who got engaged over the holidays, which is very sweet as well. So I'm looking forward. So how long is this book in particular?
Well, I mean, it is. I have the hardcover, and so it looks large, but it's only about 350 pages. And I mean, there's short chapters, and so there's all this white space. So, you know, you'll get through it, Carrie. You'll love it.
I get through them all. Maybe not as fast as I got through this book today, but yeah, I'm actually really stoked to read it. And Jan Arden as a selection, fabulous.
That was for you. That was for you, darling.
I appreciate you so much. I think we've lost Graham, so we will let Graham go for this week. But we will be back next month to read this next book by Jan Arden. As always, you can follow along on the Book Notification podcasts at booknotification.com. While you're there, we want you to sign up, subscribe, and get notified about your very favorite authors, about all the new books that are being released, and we want to hang out with you. So thanks so much for joining us on I Care About Books, and we will see you next time.